interesting things outside of virtualization that are keeping you entertained. But well, I guess I'll save that to the end. And your favorite iPad apps. We'll also have
That's the new stock question. I can answer that.
But I was
Angry Birds.
Angry Birds, right on the record. Okay. But last year we were talking.
Yeah, what's happened in the last year?
I mean, so a lot has happened, and a lot hasn't happened. I mean, a lot of it is the same. We're still talking about rallying developers around Spring Source, and it seems like even more than ever, Spring Source and vFabric are new terms, new products, and interesting ones with vEdge and all that. But it seems to be a continuation of what we were covering last year, what we wrote in a magazine article called Death of the PC. It was basically that we see the operating system playing a smaller and smaller role. So it was at the time you were introducing OVF, I think it was, and we were talking about how great it was to have an open container, and I sort of picked up on the nuance that in a world where file is, or there is a standard for this, then the thing that's in that machine matters a little bit less. So it doesn't matter what type of operating system it is, be it Red Hat that we run in Forbes or something else. I think there's a word with an M in something. I've heard it, not today. But so it seems like this is more of that, right? So we saw Paul was, you guys are trying to dominate this, not only remove some of the capabilities out of the operating system, but really try to own it. Is that a fair understanding that you guys are really kind of drilling into this virtualization layer and making it a VMware platform?
But I think it was actually fun to prepare for this event because I looked at last year's event and what was going on, the size of the audience, the number of announcements. So I do think that the vision that we talked about last year is largely what we've headed towards. You've probably seen this in your own workings, but for me, the big thing that's changed is the level of awareness in the industry, and you probably get questions all the time, but the number of CIOs that we deal with now who are faced with this rapidly changing world and are looking for a trusted advisor in how do they navigate the world is it's at an all-time high for me personally. So we think that the message we started with is very solid, but now we're getting to the specifics of what they're asking us to do. Specifically, today we announced 6 products, 2 acquisitions, and a new cloud partnering program. So we've obviously been quite busy in this year period, but it's not to completely recap the keynote or anything like that, but it's really CIOs come to us. They have all this pressure coming from, I hear Amazon 7 cents an hour. I hear Google runs 2,000 servers with one IT administrator, and then they go to their poor administrative staff and say, why can't you be more like those cloud guys? And the amount of, I'd say, pressure that's hitting the CIOs, especially after the troublesome economy, has caused them to be looking at this more than ever. So I think the audience itself and the questions that are out there has changed. I think that's why more than 17,000 people kind of showed up for this, which is now being talked about, not just the virtualization event, but really the cloud event. So what we're trying to do, I know you know our stuff quite well, but I think the big deal from today is really we got 4.1 out the door. It's looking very solid from customer reviews and does a lot of really good things. But then to augment that with vCloud Director is what we've probably spent 2 years working on this product with a lot of these same customers. And for them, they'll be able to put this up, and the visibility to a user, I don't know, it was kind of goofy on stage, but the idea that a user can now help themselves to IT much more effectively and then pay for what they use is really the first arrow in the quiver of IT being able to say, we're running a private cloud. We can be as efficient and user-friendly as these things that you might be circumventing us for. So I think you've nailed it, Taylor, that it's a lot of the same message, but it's just now at a fevered pitch, and we have the actual products in place to do it.
The only real area that I wanted to focus in on before we probably get to some more technical questions from Elias is a little bit about that community. So I think I remember last year you told me that, gosh, a year ago, I can't believe it, but that for every $1 spent on VMware, there's $11 spent on, and I think I didn't make that number. Did that?
No,
that sound?
That was
right.
Right.
I don't make everything up. And I was wondering if that's still the same, because I mean, one can expect, based on basic principles of economics, that as you guys are working to develop your core platform and the core set, I wouldn't even say it has been developed until vDirector is running on either side, and we got all that going on, that other kind of smaller players would pop up and say, well, gee, you don't have anyone doing this, and we'll be great at this. Salesforce, and we'll focus on that. And so that's what I understood when I walk around the conference floor and you see all these companies. I've never heard of half of them, but they're all offering something really cool usually. And I'm wondering, are there the same number of these partners, or are they less? Do we see consolidation, as companies like 3PAR get picked up, or how is that changing?
Who picked them up again?
I don't even know.
I was going to ask you that.
No, I think I last heard there were about 277 companies on the floor. I want to get back to you on that number, but it's roughly that.
Over 250.
Which is unbelievable. But what's interesting, so first of all, we're a completely partner-driven company. It's not to get into the business side too much, but they are our sales force, these value-added retailers. And it comes out, the $11, to be very clear, is hardware, other software, and services. And that number has held true as long as I've been looking at it from a VMware perspective. And the reason I bring it up, there's certainly there's a similar composition. Downstairs you'll hear the new networking technology, the new storage technology, the new management technology. You're actually spending the same ratios, but you're running more on top of that same amount of spend, if that makes sense. So you can run, compared to last year, you can run substantially more virtual machines on the same hardware, on the same software. But what I'm finding is that the services angle, what the CIOs, as I mentioned, they're really looking for help in taking care of the mess that they might have today as they prepare for where they want to be 3-4 years from now. And so the services side of it, which includes all these system integrators and all the work that they do at getting to know an organization, I'd say I'm seeing that ramp even more as we go forward, because it's a very complex and company-specific transition they're going through.
So why you guys have your own services division, obviously. Are you guys going to be ramping that up? Are these integrators going to be coming from inside VMware at some point, or are you guys going to continue to rely on the partner community sort of supplement?
So the way we do services at VMware, it's an IP generation function. Our goal is to be a software company, so we're a software licensing company. What the job of that group is, we have very senior people who are out there in the field working with customers on the transitions, on movement towards the cloud as a new focus they have. And then they'll create the general IP and the best practices. And then we offer that to our ecosystem of partners. So we feel we have to be involved to make sure we know the best practices and aren't just listening to others. But then we very rapidly push it out to other companies to fulfill. So we're absolutely a software licensing company.
So are there any untapped areas where you expect to see continued development of new kind of supplemental services and hardware and all that? Places that there are still opportunities for entrepreneurs who want to start the next hardware company?
I'm spending a ton of time on the floor this year. I think there's just a massive disruption occurring right now, and it is for me about the hybrid cloud. And what every CIO I talk to wants to know is, I'm in a world where I have all my own resources. I've had challenges enough getting that in order, but now my employees are also using SaaS applications and they're using public clouds. So I personally think the most room where there's just not much in place today is those tools that recognize the hybrid cloud. They help you move data across them. They help you manage networks. They help you track inventory of where things are running, performance monitoring. So if you were to ask me just at the whole level, this hybrid cloud model will take off, and there's a huge set of challenges to solve to make that as seamless as we'd like to see it get.